Premier League top half standings, Liverpool just a point behind Manchester City, following on from their win over Newcastle yesterday. Spurs will be hosting Liverpool on Sunday. As things stand, the game is expected to go ahead, but you have to wonder if it will, as we now welcome in Julien Laurent. So let's talk more about that game if we can, Jules. Is it expected to go ahead, or are people tentative that maybe this will be another one that will be postponed?
Well, at the moment, as you say, Kel, is going ahead. We're awaiting the latest result of the Liverpool squad in terms of COVID, because as we know, and because they missed the game against Newcastle, Fabinho, Virgil van Dijk, Curtis Jones, all tested positive on Thursday morning. So we don't know if more cases maybe might happen or arise from the Liverpool squad. But at the moment, that game is going ahead. Obviously, Spurs haven't played for 10 days now. They had the game against Rennes that was postponed, the game against Brighton, the one against Leicester, of course, on Thursday. All of that postponed because of the COVID positive cases that they had in their squad, between the first team squad and the technical staff as well. So I guess fingers crossed. It's not good when you've got too many games out. We already have 5 out of the 10 this weekend in the Premier League that are all postponed. But this one at the moment is going ahead as scheduled.
OK, so let's just talk about that. This will be Spurs in action for the first time since December the 5th, when they beat Norwich 3-0.
Right.
Liverpool have played 4 games since December the 4th. Is it?
Yeah, but that's because they've had not... I'm stating the obvious here, because they've not had the COVID cases.
Right, OK. So looking at that, though, it's starting to make the competition look a little bit strange. Like, if you look at the table, you're seeing more games played, catch-up games to be made. Going into this game...
This is an unusual period we're going through, and unfortunately we look as if we're going through a piece of it again. For how long, we don't know. So there's no point trying to take an ideal view of it. I mean, the Premier League at the moment, as we sit here now, their view, as we speak, is if the games can go ahead, they're going to go ahead. There has not been a decision yet. I believe on Monday the Premier League clubs will meet to discuss it between themselves, and I'm sure there'll be some discussion and delegation from the Premier League and possibly from at some point from the government as well. But until that point, the Premier League's mindset, the same as it is in Scotland and the same as it is in Spain and Italy and Germany, albeit behind closed doors in Munich today, if there's enough fit players and there's not too many COVID cases, the game goes ahead. Now, I don't have the answer about who's played too many games and who's not played enough and who's had rest and who's... I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is here. This is a very unprecedented situation again.
OK, so obviously it's hard to have the answers to a situation like this. But personal opinion for you, Stevie, if you were going into this fixture, who has the advantage? Does Spurs have the advantage having had all that rest, or Liverpool having played all those games?
Under normal circumstances, then there's no question that a team gets a weekend off, basically, because it's probably going to be, 14 days, maybe something like that, before they play a game. Normally, in this situation, this time of the year, to get that amount of time off would be fantastic. And really, it does depend on who has been affected by COVID. Because as we know, the players that have had it, it's taken them, even though they've got rid of the symptoms, and they're fit, and they're healthy, and they don't have any symptoms, they're still not right. And so it's a tough one to call, because under normal circumstances, 100% you give Tottenham the edge having the rest this time of year. The problem is we don't know how the players at Tottenham are going to be feeling, even though they might not have any symptoms. So it's almost impossible to call.
One of the other problems is and I don't want to go too deep into this, is vaccination rates. And it's not per se a football thing. I think it's a society thing, certainly in the UK. If you take the numbers, they're very equal between age groups, from non-sports people to sports people. For example, I believe the rates for double jabbed or fully vaccinated Premier League players is around 60 or 70%, give or take. And that is indicative of the population itself. So all these things are a problem. It's not like, if you look at La Liga and the Bundesliga, and I saw some figures today, it's something like 90-odd% of the players in those leagues are what we would call fully vaccinated. So it's an issue for the players in terms of vaccination, and I'm not telling anybody what to do. That's a choice, clearly, at this moment in time. But it's also an issue for the supporters, and in terms of we're still letting people into the grounds. We saw that at Chelsea yesterday. So it's not just the games going ahead, it's the vaccination rates amongst the players as well is very low in England in comparison to the leagues, particularly in Spain and in Italy.
Yeah, Jules, can we just elaborate a little bit on that? Because it is something that I know you brought up on the Gavin Jules podcast, something you've already touched on in tonight's show. Those vaccination rates and the players and their reaction to this.
Yeah, this is the big problem. Craig is right for the figures. Certainly, France is 95%, Italy 97%, Spain 98% of players having already got double jabbed and then going for their third dose. In England, it's 68%, and this is where the problem is. This is where the problem lies. I was told a story the other day that on Sunday night, I won't name the Premier League club, half of that squad were partying in a nightclub. I've got no problem with partying in nightclubs. One, maybe choose the time where you go, because right now with the new variant, you know that maybe some places you avoid. But two, especially if you don't have the vaccine, not even the first dose, which a lot of the players in the Premier League don't have. And guess what? Well, a lot in that squad tested positive 3 days later. So I think players in England have to take a lot of responsibility for the situation as well. Jurgen Klopp said it really well today again. He said, at Liverpool, 100%. Everybody has had the 2 vaccines. I even got the 3rd one now. And I encourage everyone, stop the misinformation. Just listen to people who knows, and people who know best tell you to get the vaccine, so go and get it. But not every club are like Liverpool. I can tell you that right now in the Premier League, and this is where the problem is.
I just hope that, never mind the Premier League, but any professional team who has players who have chosen, which is their right, not to be vaccinated, if they're found to be that irresponsible and going to nightclubs and going out, I hope the clubs absolutely annihilate them in any way possible. The highest fines, suspension, you name it. Because not only are they putting themselves at risk, but they're putting all the other players at risk, even though they've had vaccinations, and they're putting the club at risk. Because now we're looking at another situation where clubs might not have people in the stand, and if they're contributing to that, then what they're doing is going against the whole club, the whole business that pays their wages. So if they are doing that, I hope they get absolutely bashed.
Jules will probably know the answer better to me than this. So am I presuming, say for example, and this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is not whether football games go ahead, clearly, but you know, it's the business that we're in. So we're talking about this, and we're trying to figure out a way, or they are, how it's not going to disrupt it. If there was, say, 100% vaccination rate among, say, Premier League footballers, even if there was COVID positive tests, those players would not have to self-isolate, and games could still go ahead.
That's right.
That's right, yeah. Because the rule is in England, because if we leave this to the British government, we're all screwed, right? Because they haven't got a clue, right? So at least if the players were all vaccinated, a positive test would mean games would not be cancelled. And that's where one of the issues in this whole deeply disturbing period is coming along, is that there is a big percentage, for whatever reason, they're just not getting themselves vaccinated, and that means that it's going to be a big disruption to these fixtures. And I can't see how. I was talking to somebody today, another journalist guy that I know in England. He said, I could see these rates for infections doubling by the time we get to next week. So it's not going away anytime soon, unless everybody gets vaccinated, and that would mean you have to force them to do that. And I don't believe that's the case.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.